Dr. Rebecca Sanders had always prided herself on her calm demeanor, even in the face of chaos. But nothing could have prepared her for the terror that awaited her during one fateful night shift at the hospital. It was well past midnight when Dr. Sanders received a call about a patient in critical condition on the fourth floor. Reluctantly, she made her way through the dimly lit corridors, her footsteps echoing eerily against the sterile walls. As she entered the room, a chill ran down her spine. The patient, a young man named Jacob, lay motionless on the bed, his eyes wide open and filled with terror. His vital signs were fluctuating wildly, and Dr. Sanders knew she had to act fast. But as she approached the bed, a strange feeling washed over her, a feeling of being watched. She glanced around the room, but there was no one there. Brushing it off as exhaustion, she focused on stabilizing Jacob. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting long shadows across the room. Dr. Sanders froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Something was terribly wrong. Just then, a guttural whisper filled the air, sending shivers down her spine. "Leave this place," it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. Dr. Sanders tried to ignore the voice, but it grew louder and more insistent with each passing moment. Desperate to escape, she reached for the door, but it slammed shut with a deafening thud, trapping her inside. Panic consumed her as she realized she was not alone. Something sinister lurked in the darkness, something ancient and malevolent. With each passing second, its presence grew stronger, suffocating her with fear. Then, out of the corner of her eye, Dr. Sanders caught a glimpse of movement, a shadowy figure darting across the room with unnatural speed. She screamed, her voice drowned out by the echoing laughter of the entity. Driven by sheer terror, Dr. Sanders fought to break free, but the entity was relentless, toying with her like a cat with its prey. With each passing moment, its grip tightened, draining her of strength and hope. With a primal scream, Dr. Sanders kept struggling to free herself, but it was too late. The entity had her in its shadowy grip with a fury unlike anything she had ever known, enveloping her in darkness and despair. And as the last vestiges of her sanity slipped away, Dr. Sanders knew that she would never escape the clutches of the malevolent entity that haunted the hospital. Her screams echoed through the empty halls, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked within. In the hushed darkness of Mercyvale Hospital, patient Thomas awoke to a chill creeping through his room. His heart raced as he glanced around, the moonlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. He was alone, or so he thought. A soft rustling drew his attention to the foot of his bed. There, bathed in an ethereal glow, stood a spectral figure, a nurse dressed in outdated uniform, her face obscured by the veil of time. Thomas's breath caught in his throat as he watched her approach, her footsteps silent against the linoleum floor. Who are you?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. The ghostly nurse offered no reply, instead reaching out with spectral hands to adjust his IV drip. Thomas felt a chill run down his spine as her cold touch sent shivers through his body. "What do you want?" he managed to choke out, his voice trembling with fear. But the nurse remained silent, her eyes fixed on him with an intensity that sent a shudder through his soul. And then, without warning, she vanished into thin air, leaving Thomas alone in the darkness once more. For nights afterward, Thomas lay awake, haunted by the memory of the ghostly nurse. He tried to convince himself it was just a dream, a trick of his overactive imagination. But deep down, he knew the truth. She was real, and she was watching him, her ghostly presence a harbinger of something far more sinister. As the nights wore on, Thomas's health began to decline, his body weakened by an unseen force that seemed to sap his strength with each passing day. Doctors and nurses came and went, their faces etched with concern, but none could offer an explanation for his mysterious ailment. And then, one fateful night, as Thomas lay on his deathbed, the ghostly nurse returned. This time, there was no fear in her eyes, no malevolence in her touch. Instead, she offered him a gentle smile, her presence a comfort in his final moments. With her spectral hand clasped in his own, Thomas felt a sense of peace wash over him, the fear and uncertainty of his ordeal melting away. And as he closed his eyes for the last time, he knew that he was not alone, that even in death, the ghostly nurse would be by his side, guiding him into the unknown. In the dimly lit corridors of St. Agnes Hospital, Dr. Marcus had always felt a lingering unease. It wasn't just the stale smell of antiseptic or the distant echoes of patients in pain. There was something else, something sinister that lurked within the shadows, waiting to reveal itself. One fateful night, as Dr. Marcus made his rounds, he encountered a patient unlike any he had seen before. The man lay motionless in his bed, his eyes vacant, yet his presence seemed to emanate an aura of malevolence. Dr. Marcus dismissed it as his imagination running wild and continued his duties. But as the night deepened, strange occurrences began to unfold. Patients would suddenly wake, screaming in terror, claiming they had been visited by grotesque apparitions. They spoke of ghostly figures lurking in the corners of their rooms, whispering malevolent secrets into their ears. Dr. Marcus tried to reassure his patients, attributing their experiences to fever dreams and the stress of their illnesses. Yet deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more sinister at play. As the nights passed, the hospital became consumed by an atmosphere of fear and dread. Nurses whispered tales of patients who had mysteriously vanished without a trace, their beds left empty, their charts erased as if they had never existed. Desperate for answers, Dr. Marcus delved into the hospital's dark history. He uncovered stories of a deranged doctor who had once roamed the halls, conducting gruesome experiments on unsuspecting patients. Rumors spoke of tortured souls trapped between the realms of the living and the dead, forever bound to the hospital's walls. One night, as Dr. Marcus worked late into the hours, he felt a chill creep down his spine. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the deserted corridors. And then he saw them, the ghostly patients, their gaunt faces twisted in agony, their hollow eyes staring into his soul. Paralyzed with fear, Dr. Marcus watched helplessly as the spirits closed in around him, their ghostly hands reaching out as if to drag him into the abyss. With a scream, he fled, his heart pounding in terror as he raced through the labyrinthine halls. But escape proved futile, for wherever he turned, the spirits followed, their tormented wails echoing in his ears. And then, in a moment of horrifying realization, Dr. Marcus understood the truth. He was one of them now, doomed to wander the halls of St. Agnes Hospital for all eternity, a ghostly specter haunting its dark corridors.